At first I sort of felt like locking myself in a dark room, chucking all the needles in a bin and just eating a huge cake. But then you realise you've just got to accept it. And I sort of saw getting control as a motivation and a challenge. And then the more control you have, the better you feel. So it spurs you on even more.
Several years ago, we had a robbery in a pub in Tewkesbury. Myself and 2 other people were tied up for, I think it was approximately 10 hours. I think after you've been tied up with a knife in your throat for quite a few hours, on a scale of 1 to 10, I put diabetes on 2 to 3, and I'll put that on a 9 to 10, you know.
The buzz phrase now is living with diabetes. We don't talk about diabetics or even people who have diabetes. They live with diabetes.
Come on then, come on. If you've got good control, you can live a completely normal life, eat reasonably well, eat what you like, have an active lifestyle and not have to worry too much about anything.
Claudia is a financial advisor living with her husband and 2 very special dogs near Wrexham. Sam, diagnosed a month ago, is an engineering student in his first year.
I've started doing my Lantus insulin, which is the one I have to do every day, at around 7 o'clock, because that's the time at uni where I'm normally free, so that should be convenient for me. They said the same with the meals. They don't want me to eat anything different. They want to fit the insulin around me, not the other way around.
Paul is retired and was diagnosed a year ago.
You can eat what you want, you've just got to take the injection. If you want chocolate, you can eat chocolate, but you must take your insulin.
The body's immune system has essentially turned on itself. So in type 1 diabetes, for instance, it seems to attack the beta cells, which are certain cells inside the pancreas that produce insulin. It's the insulin that lets the sugar out of the blood. So without insulin, the sugar stays in the blood, stays high, and the organs that need it tend to become short on supply. So over a period of time, we're not exactly sure how long, the beta cells become destroyed, the insulin production goes down, and the person develops diabetes as a result.
I thought we were supposed to say blood glucose.
Sugar and glucose, as far as this is concerned, are the same thing. Glucose is just more the technical word.
Who's a good girlie? I spent a lot of time, a few weeks following my diagnosis, just reading everything that I could get my hands on. The more I read, the more sort of scared I became, because you read about the risks, which are plentiful, and I started to panic.
It can cause coronary disease, which can cause heart attacks and strokes. That's one of the main ones. It can cause liver problems, problems with your feet, with your retinas in your eyes.
But then I actually realised that's only if you don't control it.
The best way to avoid complications and the best evidence-based way is to keep the blood sugars controlled as you can for as much of the day as you can. And particularly overnight. At night time, your sugar is dependent on the insulin you essentially take at bedtime. So if you take the right dose at bedtime and run your sugars well during the night, that's 8 hours of good blood sugar control that you'll really benefit from.
Controlling the amount of sugar or glucose in your blood is key to good health.
I'm keeping it between about 4 and 7, which is where they should be. And that's down to militant record keeping.
If I had one message, use your sugars, learn from them, and adjust your insulin around it.
It's a matter of writing everything down every day. If you write down what you've eaten, what your levels were in the morning, what your levels are at lunchtime, evening and just before bed, you get an idea over a week or 2 weeks which way you're going.
It's really tedious, like every time you want to eat, writing something down, testing your blood, making notes.
Well, I started off with numbers here, like you can see, 10 to 15, mostly a few over, which is a bit high. But as I've progressed on past this week into some of the other ones, like you can see here, they've gone down. And the last few days, most of them have been in a relatively normal area, so it's going quite well for me here.
If you write the sugar down in a book, it goes through your brain. You have to think about it that little bit. And if it happens to be wrong, a little bit high or a little bit low, it just maybe encourages people to give a little bit of thought as to why that is and then avoid that in the future.
And then there's exercise.
I do a lot of exercise, so that was half the battle in a way, to looking after myself. I actually think I'm healthier and fitter and better off for having it.
Keeping your blood glucose levels between about 4 and 7 should be your aim.
When I was going out walking the dog, I was actually deliberately going out on a glucose level of 13 because I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to have a hypo in the park, and I found I don't need that now. I can go out on a 10, walk a couple of miles and be fine. I can go out on a 9 and be fine.
If you keep records of your hypos, it'll help you avoid them in future.
One particularly awful time, I went in the bath. I found out later that the heat from the water speeds up the action of the insulin. I obviously hadn't eaten enough food for what I'd taken, and the hypo was so severe. I mean, I couldn't stand up. I couldn't even get out the bath. I was shaking. It was, really, really bad.
Some people get often more frightened by the low sugars than the high sugars because they can make you feel pretty unwell quite quickly, really. But always think, why has that hypo happened?
Keep sugar everywhere, because you never know when you might be on your own and I might not be able to get to it.
There are some special occasions when you definitely can't afford to have a hypo.
Now, some people on an important day like a wedding day, they might just decide to run themselves that little bit higher on that day. And that's quite reasonable. People will do that within limits and it'll be fine.
And if you're called upon to toast the bride and her bridesmaids, then you'll need some advice on alcohol.
Wine crashes me like a stone, and that can either be while I'm drinking it, during the night, or the next day. I still drink it because I love it, but what I'll do, say I was going out for dinner and I was going to be drinking wine all evening, I'll under-inject my insulin. So I'll probably inject 70% of what I would have normally done, just to give me that buffer, just to keep me a little higher.
Simple rule with alcohol, if you drink it, your blood sugar's going to go up during the evening because alcohol turns to sugar, and some drinks are very sweet by their nature. But don't take insulin for that high blood sugar after alcohol, because essentially what will happen in the night is your blood sugar will fall, partly because your liver gets a little bit drunk and doesn't give you sugar as it should do. The blood sugar can fall in the night and people can experience hypos.
So, top tips, eat when you get home and keep a diary. Be aware of what alcohol affects you and how.
If you can make time to learn more about getting your diabetes under control, like a Daphne course, you'll really reap the benefits. And go for refreshers when you can.
I actually learned that the levels that I've been on for the past 2 to 3 months thinking they were okay, which was roughly about 14, were not good enough. That's nearly double the level that you should be on. It can cause a lot of problems. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but obviously in the years to come.
Keeping a good level of control is probably less work and less hassle in the long term than letting yourself get sick. And of course the big motivator is that it's a very serious condition. You know, if you don't take it seriously, you will get sick, very sick potentially.
It's not going to be right all the time, and you mustn't overstress about the odd sugar that's wrong, particularly the odd high sugar. Just think, why has that happened? Is there a reason? It might be something dead simple, like I had a bit of cake and I didn't take any insulin. Okay, fine. Lesson learnt, next time you've got a cake, take a little bit of insulin. If you don't know how much to take, you can speak to your diabetes nurse about it and she'll help you with it.
I'm feeling a little lightheaded, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm struggling to get my words. So I thought, oh, I'm very high actually, which is odd. I felt very, very low. And this is another thing that can be quite confusing. I can feel quite similar. Do you know what? I think I forgot to inject my insulin with breakfast. Oh no, there's me going on about control. I think with rushing around this morning planning for all this, I might have oh well, I'll sort it out in a minute. Unless, actually, no, do you mind if I just do it now? But this is the thing, you know, when your life's busy and other things are going on, you can make these sort of mistakes. It's never going to be perfect. My reading's 10.3 and it was only about 5.2 this morning, so I'd like to get it down to about 6, so I'll put in 2 just to settle it down, I guess.
Nobody's perfect when it comes to diabetes control, but it is worth taking time to look after yourself as well as you can.
The older you will look back at the younger you and thank you for having done that.
My main ambition is to carry on as normal.
Get out and live it. Do it. Do what you want to do. I walked up Aconcagua, a 7,000 metre mountain 2 years ago, and in our team there was a girl with type 1 diabetes. She got to the top. She goes out and lives her life. Everyone should do the same.